Hi, my name is Michael Moger. I'm the president of the United Federation of Teachers, and I'd like to welcome you all to the UFT Town Hall on what we call the State of the State speech that the governor gave and his budget proposal, which is before us. And I've gotten a lot of communications from so many of the members, and I appreciate that, but I think it's best if we really talk about where we're headed and what's going on here. So first, I want to bring up the fact that I want to thank everyone. Here in this city, we have faced these crises before. We had the previous administration, whose name I will not use. We've done a lot of work, and we did our work the right way. We educated parents, we worked with community groups, and we pushed back. We pushed back a lot of bad ideas. And we are now, as a city and as a school system, we're moving forward. And I'm very proud of the work that we do. We are moving education forward in the largest school system in the United States. And I thought that was going to be the majority of our work as we moved into the future. But a couple of weeks ago, I got to sit in an auditorium in Albany, and it was almost like Back to the Future. And as I sat there and I listened to the governor's proposals on the budget, I sat there as a teacher first and foremost. And I remember my first day of teaching. And I remember the fact that I wanted to work with high needs children. And I remember the fact that I worked in a school that had all sorts of challenges that we all know about poverty and different things and all sorts of things that just make it a little bit more difficult for us to do the job that we have to do. And I sat there thinking about listening to the governor propose individual merit pay, propose 50% on teacher evaluation on test scores, propose that I want to take over a school if it's struggling and throw everybody out, and propose that for those who come into our schools, the people who choose to teach in this profession, if you have an allegation against you, you have no voice or defense, or you don't have your side of the story. And as I sat there listening to the governor's proposals, I thought of myself as that first day when I was teaching. And I said, if I was sitting here on the first day I was a teacher and listened to what this man said about education, about how he thought it should be run, I would have no choice but to say, I should not be a teacher. And that's what's the saddest part of all of this. Yes, I am angry. People have asked me that day. I responded. I said, it's very sad. But I am angry. I am angry because I know what each and every one of us do every day. The passion that we bring into the school buildings. The fact that no matter how difficult the teaching and learning situations are that we're all in, we always figure out a way to help our children. And I didn't hear any of that in Albany 3 weeks ago when the governor made his proposals. So that is the challenge that faces us as a union, as a group of professionals, but it's no longer just us here in New York City. It is the entire state, the entire state. And I want to be clear here. This is not going to be an easy process. The state constitution of New York gives the governor a large amount of power in the budget process, an extreme amount of leverage against people. And that is what we face here. But at the same time, I do know that his ideas were so bad that I don't hear really a lot of debates about the ideas. It's more about the politics of whether he can do it or not. So our challenge now is to do what we have done in the past when people have come and tried to destroy what we do each and every day, which is care for the children of New York City and now the entire state. Our challenge is to gain more partnerships, go out, educate, grassroots, keep moving on to social media. Just an aside right now, the governor had to hire a new social media person because all the work that you have been doing, you have made a difference. On social media, we are absolutely pushing back and showing the governor that he has made a mistake. And now the forums that we are doing, not just here in New York City, but those forums are happening across the state. And it's more about educating the folks who understand that we're trying to do the right thing in terms of helping their children. We need to create a debate now about the teaching and learning conditions for the children of this state as well as for the people who work in those schools. Because for all the people And you could say, people have asked me, why did the governor do this? And I've heard about, oh, it's political payback. It's he didn't like it because we didn't endorse him. It's all irrelevant to us right now. There is an opportunity for us to start a real constructive debate about if we're going to move education, we need to talk about teaching and learning conditions. We need to know how a school is funded if it's funded properly. We need to know if a teacher has all of the supplies they need to do or run the curriculum. We need to know if they have the curriculum. That's always a good one. Let's just start with, do we have the curriculum? Was I trained in the curriculum? Do I have the materials that coincide with what you're asking me to teach? Is my class size correct? Do I have a school with a large population of children that have extreme challenges, and do I have the programs and support to help me with those students? You never hear these debates because they want to talk about test scores, bad teachers. That's their two things. They never stop with those two things. We love teachers, we want more test scores. Let's just talk about the first one, individual merit pay. I don't know how to respond to individual merit pay. I couldn't believe that the governor of New York proposed individual merit pay because it's been tried everywhere. And everywhere it's tried, it has failed. And the research is clear. When you do it, it won't work, at the very least. But worse than that, a lot of times it harms. So it's not that there's a debate, and the parents of this state are with us. Do they want 50% test scores? Absolutely not. And when I testified normally last week, we have to even go a step further, and sometimes this is hard amongst ourselves. I keep telling people this, a test is our tool. Somebody took our tool and is misusing it. So do we throw the tool out, or do we take the tool back? Is really the question that we have. And I don't believe a child should sit for a test if at the end of that test, the teacher does not get a diagnostic that's informative that they can use to plan their instruction and also share with the parent. So let's stop wasting all of our time and move in the right direction. So right now, everybody else in the United States is moving backwards, moving away from the test, which I consider forwards. Guess who's going in the opposite direction? The only state going in the opposite direction. New York. So now we become the outlier for tests. And that's what he wants. And we know, and if anyone can tell the tale of tests, it should be the people of this city. Because it might not have been a large percentage in our evaluation at any time, but the schools in this city under the previous administration were being graded 85% on test scores. And we saw what happened. All of a sudden, college readiness numbers, was the child actually on grade level, everything starts to plummet because we know that is not real learning. If you want something that's constructive, something that helps us diagnose a child's strengths and weaknesses, that helps us in our teaching, once again, it's about teaching and learning conditions. Now, the politics. You go to Albany, it's all about politics. We have a lot of friends in Albany. Friends who understand that there are nothing but dedicated people in our profession. So we have asked here for this local. Remember, we're one of 700 locals in this state. We might be a big one, but we are one of 700. We have asked that here in New York City, we do 11 forums, which we have started. And this is the perfect opportunity because we're invited the elected officials in, the state and city elected officials, we're inviting them to these forums. And this is the opportunity for us, for teachers and parents, guidance counselors, paraprofessionals to stand together and have a real conversation about what we're trying to do in education. And they need to hear it. You know, people asked me at first, we had a tough decision here. They said, should I go to the forums? I said, well, if I go to the forums, everybody waits for me to talk. And I think it's more important that these elected officials hear from you guys. Because when they talk to you, and we just got to be careful on one thing. Sometimes we tend to let our frustrations come out first. What do we call that? Griping, okay? Talk about the other part. The part that I get to see when I walk into schools, the part that you know. We are passionate, dedicated people. You walked in a school, you decided that you wanted to make your life's work caring for children. And you've done it under extremely, extremely challenging circumstances. And now you want to move education forward, and you have a governor who wants to take it backwards. And that's the kindest word I can say on that. Let them hear from you what I know you all have inside of you. You bring out that passion and dedication, they understand then that what this really is about a group trying to make sure that we can always do work to the best of our ability for the children in our care. And that's what these forums are about. And make sure that they understand that when they go back to Albany. Because the legislature, both sides, does have power in the process, in this political process. So that is what we're asking right now at this point. We're doing all sorts of social events. We have all sorts of different things. We'll be back and forth to Albany at different times, busloads of people in and out. Social media is going to keep going. I'm going to keep what I call grinding the budget process. Because that is our job, is to continue the budget process. And in the end, if we're successful, teaching and learning conditions become part of this discussion. And things, we see real things that we know are going to make a difference at the school level. That teachers have this ability to say, there's a school board somewhere who decided that they don't want education to work in their district, in another part of the state. To talk about how if a teacher is rated effectively, then you should get more latitude in how the work you do the following year. All of those things need to be part of this. If we do this process, we work the budget, if that's there, and we take out the things that we know are not going to work, that are going to harm children, then we move forward. But if those things are still there, if his budget proposal becomes the law of this land, then I am sorry, folks. It becomes, this union focuses on taking care of our children, making sure we move education forward in New York City, but politically, it's about letting the rest of this country know that our governor did more to harm public education than any governor in the history of New York State. And that's where we're going to go. Of course, I don't want to get there. I think the work that we're doing each and every day with our children is more important. And that's where I'd like to focus our time and attention. But you don't always get what you want. Every day we walk into a classroom, we have our lesson plan, we think, wow, I planned my lesson. It's going to go exactly the way I just planned it, right? And does it ever? No, it doesn't go that way. But we move. We're good at that. We think on our feet. That's what we do. So this whole process, and you're going to hear all sorts of people saying nasty things, trying to take what they think is happening. You know, I'm spending time in Albany. Ooh, I can't be clearer. There is no deal here. This has gone too far. Way too far. And there is too much at stake. There is way too much at stake. And we did not get through for me, those 5 years of Bloomberg, 4.5 years, push that back. Put ourselves in a position to show the rest of this country how absolutely a large urban school system can be successful. We have a chancellor who's working with us, who went to Albany last week with me and went right at the governor's budget proposal. That was so nice. Remember those years of those other chancellors? They would go up and testify before me and just say how horrible I was. And so it was so nice to have a chancellor say, this is crazy. Test scores, more charter schools, more test scores. Where is this discussion on evaluation about how it helps people get better? Where's the support on evaluation? What is the real discussion on student achievement? Is your idea of student achievement only a test score? And then the other piece here is when we were up last week, the governor, the worst part in his budget proposal, he said he had to do this because all the kids failed the test. He didn't, nothing about, for years we kept saying you're about to change the standards of what we teach under, and we would like a curriculum and some training. We asked for that for years. And then we told everyone they were going to fail. The kids were going to fail the test because we have no support. We don't even know what it is. Then lo and behold, they all fail, just like we said they would. And the governor says that's why he has to take action. I wish he would have taken action 3 years ago and put in a budget proposal that says every teacher in the state of New York will get a valid, full curriculum on these new standards, and there must be at least 2 weeks of training built into the school year before those tests could ever be used. Wouldn't that have been nice? Yeah. But no, we wait till now. So we're now at this point. It's going to be a tough road. April 1st, if it's not done, the governor's already given a speech. He says if the budget's not done by April 1st, he will do it through what is called emergency extenders. It's basically an executive order. Just an aside, today, the governor of Illinois just took away the dues collection process for the unionized employees in the state of Illinois through executive order. But he's a Republican. It is what it is. So that's where we're going to move now. On the individual issues, I want to talk about them quickly. I don't think I have to talk to anyone about how to talk about individual merit pay. It's failed, it hurts kids, and like it or not, we like to get paid well, we like to take care of our families, but we believe in a career ladder position. We believe that if people are exceptional and can help other teachers, we need to recognize that. They need to be compensated appropriately. That is the way to create a system that actually will work through a career ladder. Individual merit pay has failed, and it hurts kids. We don't need it. We just don't need it. 50% test scores. If we're speaking about this publicly, don't light your hair on fire if you have any hair. Okay? Just say very clearly, say, we're using tests, first of all, that don't even help us. Right? There's no diagnostics. There's very little information that we can share. First. Second, if you just want us to teach to this test, we're just going to keep doing this rote memorization, letting you move you to a place where you can be successful on a test. We have definitive proof in New York City. Remember when 80% of the kids were passing the test? Everybody forgot. They were 80% were passing. And we weren't jumping for joy that we were the greatest teachers. We said, this is wrong. We're all teaching to the test. Test is too easy. It's a game. The way they use standardized tests is a game. A lot of corporations make a lot of money. We're going to take back the tool of testing, diagnostic, informative, but we want our child to learn everything they need to learn. Their social emotional well-being is important. We need to, the majority of our job, as you all know, is first getting them ready to learn. Because anyone who thinks that, this is the sad part when when the governor does things like he did in his state of the state, he thinks you just walk into the classroom and they're all sitting there ready to learn right then and there. And we know that's not the truth. Our job is first making sure they're all ready to learn, and then figuring out that they're all learning at different levels and different ways, and how do we differentiate the instruction and all the rest of that. That's the discussion. And that class size does matter, especially if I have a class with a diverse amount of educational needs inside of it. So those, when they talk about testing, just say, really? And the simplest way for me to describe it is Texas wants to go to 20, New York wants to go to 50. I don't know what else to say. I just don't know what else to say. Okay? Charter schools, I've been very clear. I know they keep saying I hate charter schools. We do not hate charter schools. We just want them to serve the same kids. Okay? You cannot, and they'll keep yelling. They keep yelling that it's not true. I am sorry. The English language learners, they have said they're not attracting them correctly. That's one piece. But there is a major difference between a child who has an IEP because they have a speech therapist once a week for an hour, and a child who has an IEP because they're severely learning disabled in a self-contained 12-to-1 or 8-to-1 class. There's a big difference. Okay? And if a child has problematic behavior, you need to come up with a plan that tries to help this child understand that behavior, get to the root of it, not say, oh, you're suspended, oh, you're suspended, oh, you're suspended, maybe you should go to the public school across the street. Okay? So we've been clear. Serve the same kids. The governor, I will give him credit, he said in his state of the state, we need anti-creaming legislation. So, if he's recognizing That we need a piece of legislation so that we can guarantee that the schools, the charter schools, are serving all children and their needs. Well, then why would you give them 100 schools? Why not fix the ones that you already have open? To me, it's just pretty common sense, since we already have a law where the intent was clear in 2010 that says they need to serve the children all needs, so they're not doing it. So now we need to create another law for them to not follow it again. And look, it's not easy. It's not easy. We understand that there are a lot of charter schools that we do work with. But there are others who use it as a political tool against this union. And those are the folks that the nastiness that's involved is just not helpful. And we just want to make sure that all children have access to all the schools that are publicly funded. I don't think that's a big ask. In terms of the other issues, receivership on a school. In other words, taking over the school, getting rid of any sort of rights or protections that a teacher had, their salary, everything's gone. That one hit me more than anything else, because we're in a state where the court has already decided that the state is not meeting its constitutional obligation for funding, especially in high needs districts. And when the governor says where these schools are that have been failing, guess where they all are? In the districts with the highest needs. So the court decided it, but nobody's following the court order, and that would be the governor. And I did not see in his State of the State budget proposal that the governor says, I am now going to try to comply with the contract for excellence and start paying the needier districts the funding formula that we all agreed to years ago, even though he has a $5 billion surplus. So when I saw that receivership, I said, so let me get this right. You're in a school, you're the teacher, you choose to be in a school with extremely challenging circumstances, your school's underfunded, which means you know your teaching and learning conditions are difficult, you don't have all the supplies you need, you have students who probably have a lot of other needs that the school cannot supply because they're not funded correctly, the school struggles, and my response as the state executive is not to say, I'm sorry, we shouldn't have allowed this to happen. My response is, I'm going to close you down. That one does not sit well with me at all. We want schools. We understand schools struggle. We want a needs assessment. We want to know who are the children inside of that building. What social services can be wrapped into that building to help whatever the need is. Talk to the entire community, the parents. If the school district is not doing their job, let's have a conversation about that. We should absolutely have a conversation about that. But we need to have plans. And where is the early warning system? Where is the urgency now? He said the schools have been doing this for 10 years. I'm like, well, you've been governor for 4. Where is the early warning system? And here in New York City, we've taken this head on. We're saying this is our responsibility. We now are taking this head on. We don't have the administration who before would just shift children from school to school, close more, close more. We're saying, what is the needs of the students in the building? How do we get the right programs? Are there social services that can make a difference? Where is the funding? What about class size? And how do we support the people who are working in the most challenging situations that schools have to offer? That's what we're doing here. Well, we need to see the same thing at the state level. We don't want students, children in schools that continually struggle. But we also have to be clear that teaching and learning condition comes with a lot of responsibility, much more so than the person standing in the classroom than the people outside the classroom who are supposed to be helping that school be successful. Back to those teaching and learning conditions. We have to continue to talk about that. So those are the issues that are before us right now. He brought up tenure, 3 to 5. It's politics. You know, we have one of the most rigorous systems of any state. You know, here in New York City, we had years where teachers were rated well for years and years and years and weren't given tenure because the law allows them to do that. And people still, as you all know, they confuse what we have as tenure with professors. We don't. For us, it just means you go from provisional to permanent, and you have due process rights. That's it. But more importantly, that has become such a political issue where really it should be, if someone's doing a good job, they should then move into permanent placement and have some due process rights. That's all we have ever asked for. And actually, it's the other way here in New York City because the previous administration realized that under the law, they could just say, that's nice, you're well rated, you're doing great, but we're not going to give you tenure. And that's what they did. Well, now we're correcting that because a person earns it. It's not given to them. And then the worst of it all, the governor now has proposed that a $300 and some odd dollar budget increase for education, and only will we get a $1.1 billion increase if the legislature does all the things he has asked for. Where I come from, that's called extortion. The fact that the 1.1 is still half of what the Board of Regents said we need, and it doesn't come anywhere close to even talking about the funding around the Contract for Excellence, the foundation formula. None of that is in there. That's just wrong. It's just wrong. And he'll talk about, oh, we're the #1 in funding, we're 37th. We're not 37th. He likes to say 37 because that's based on absolute test scores. He doesn't talk about, Education Week, who does the diagnostic, does a holistic diagnosis of state education system, says New York is 9th. We used to be a little higher, but since we've been getting our budget cut every year, guess what? Money does matter. Money does matter. So these are the challenges before us now. We're in a budget process. We're going to do the grind. We're going to educate, organize. The governor's ideas, it's already on our website. If you need it, you can go up there. If you want to contact me. We'll get the information out to you. We want to make sure we're all talking to the parents. And I want everyone to see what you do in your school every day. Make sure when we're out here at these forums, whatever event we're at, show them these wonderful, wonderful, dedicated people who really are only about the children in their care. Talk to them about all of the different things you have overcome to supply your children in your school with a good, decent education, and how you help them go above and beyond. They want us to fall into the trap of we just complain. We don't just complain. We complain on certain issues, and it's not a complaint. It's an actual, real issue. I don't like the fact that we have to fight for teacher's choice every year because teachers will never be given the proper amount of supplies. I don't like the fact that we have to say in state law we need schools to start looking at a needs assessment because we should be taking social services that we're all paying for already and get them into schools where the children are and the children who need them. But they need to also see what your kids see every day. You all know this. It doesn't matter what your teaching style is. You could be the nice teacher, you could be the hard teacher. You know that the kids only respond if they know you truly care about them. And that's what you all bring to this. And that's what I want you to bring to these forums. This is what I want you to do in all of this work as we're doing this budget process. Show them that it really is education and caring for children that drives you. And when we show them that, we win. And in the end, if the governor can't see it, that's what we're really about, then we will take the appropriate action. But I would prefer to focus on making New York City's public school system the best school system in the country. We're not going to forget about that, but I'd like all of the focus of this union on that. But if the governor chooses, we can go another way too. So I want to thank you all again for coming here today and everybody who's logged on. And now we're going to start questions. What we're going to do here is our lovely Vice President of Elementary Schools, Ms. Karen Alford, has questions that a whole bunch of people have sent in, but I'm also going to alternate them back and forth. from you guys in the audience who are here, and from Karen. One thing, I'm going to play teacher fast. They need a microphone, so when Karen's asking a question, who wants to ask a question first in here? Okay. You're going to go first, so we're going to give you the microphone, but Karen's going to ask the first question. Brian, do you have a microphone for the... Bring it over. Just let her hold it for now. And then when Karen asks a question, then when you ask Karen's next question, we'll move the mic to the next person, so this way there's no downtime. All right, Karen.
Ed Shapiro from PS 202 in Brooklyn would like to know, funding all over the state of New York is uneven.
Yeah.
Each school is different. Why don't we have equitable funding for all districts and schools? And where does CFE fit into this equation?
Oh, I think I spoke about this quite a bit. CFE says the state's not meeting its constitutional responsibility in terms of equitable funding. CFE was settled. We got 2 years of CFE, and then the economy collapsed. So when the economy collapsed, it was clear at that point the budget in Albany was not about funding CFE. It was about how much money is going to get cut and how bad is it going to hurt all the school districts. Well, the state now has a surplus. And they seem to be acting like CFE was never in court or settled. So when I testified last week in Albany, one of the issues I said was, we need to see real movement on CFE here. There's a couple of different suits in court right now, but we're not going to wait. If we don't see something in this budget about the state moving towards meeting its responsibility under the contract for excellence, then we are going to court. Because it's not a debate. You have to understand the gravity of this. The state of New York has decided that the legislature is not meeting its constitutional responsibility in terms of funding schools. And they don't want to talk about that. They want to talk about test scores. They want to talk about how we ever get rid of a teacher because somebody said they did something wrong. Nobody wants to talk about the fact that nobody is complying with the law. So we're giving them this budget process to put something in there, and if they don't, then we're going to take appropriate action. Okay? Tell everybody who you are, please.
Hi, my name is Diane Yotis. I teach in PS 89 in District 24 in Queens. This year in our city schools, we've implemented a lot of new leadership programs as well as pro schools. Is the governor aware of what we are doing in our city schools?
I'm assuming not, because when I see a state of the state budget proposal like his, I'm assuming he's not. I met with the pro schools. They come in teams all the time last week. And I asked them to form a little traveling group that we can bring. I want to bring them to Albany because here they are. It's a group of schools, and those of you who don't know what pro schools are, those are schools that basically vote to alter their contract or chancellor's regs or all sorts of other things, and because they have a specific idea or plan they want to do. We like that freedom, and we support it because we believe that when the group, the education community, comes together and says, we need to do this, and there's nothing in contractual rights or regulation that really allows us to do this, then it's our responsibility to say, you know what, this is a good idea. You should be able to move on this. So they've done some really creative things. And we have asked the pros team to put together what I called a political team, and we are hoping that we will bring them up. Their first foray into the public will be on our lobby day, which is March 4th. So thank you. So who wants the next question? Since you already have the mic, you get it. So Karen, we'll go back to you. Nope, there you go. So much for no downtime. Thank you. Go ahead. For anyone watching, it wasn't Karen's fault. It was Leroy Barrs, one of our staff directors. He did it. Go ahead.
If Governor Cuomo's policy goes through, 50% of my effectiveness rating as an art teacher will come from one single Regents exam and a subject that I don't teach.
Yep.
Why would anyone want to teach the arts if we are not going to be evaluated on anything we actually do? This question is from Lisa Hitchcock from Martin Van Buren High School in Queens.
Well, that seems like a pretty simple question, huh? And I don't think the general public gets this, that that's what's going on. Look, the teacher eval debate is still raging all over the place, right? Nobody has figured it out. This is what I say is the positive. We're actually having debates about what can go into it that will actually help someone develop, and how are we looking at the craft of what we know is a very complicated job of teaching. So at least that's in the debate. Now, the people who don't like us, they want to make it simple. The current system that we have, is it the greatest system? Absolutely not. It's something that should be evolving at all times. One of the simple evolutions should be that if you're going to be evaluated on any sort of student achievement, we can debate what that should be. At least they should be the students in your charge that you're being evaluated upon. Let's start with something simple, like if I'm the art teacher doing 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade art, then I want you to tell me how my students did in art in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade that are in my care. You would think that sounds simple, right? When you have these discussions, it's like, well, how do we do that? Of course, I say portfolios. We look, oh, portfolios, that's you teachers just rigging the system. I'm like, how is it rigging the system that we'd actually be doing more work, collecting all of our students' work, putting it in a sequential order so you can see how they have developed, and then somebody else judging whether that growth is appropriate or not? Well, it's still teachers judging us. So I'm like, when I have those debates, I said, I don't need to talk to you anymore, because you think that all teachers are here for a reason which they are not. Because if you tell me it's still teachers judging it, then you're telling me you don't trust teachers. And if that's where you're coming from, I don't need to debate with you anymore. Because you don't understand what's in the heart and soul and the DNA of the people working in the school building. So I thank her for that question.
Matt Greenewald, MS-260, chapter leader, Manhattan. So I'm going to read this partially because this actually, I got to give credit to an outstanding English teacher whose question this is at my school. So a
Okay.
few teachers at my school are up for tenure this year. These are outstanding teachers who have a hesitancy stepping into leadership roles until achieving tenure, as we know, as a lot of teachers. I'm concerned for the health of our school that pushing tenure to 5 years will have a detrimental impact on retaining young teachers. Do we have a sense of how Cuomo intends to implement this? And how can we ensure that the conversation is not about how to trap teachers, but instead improve the vast majority of young teachers looking for support and to grow?
It's a great question. And I'll go back to where I started when I was sitting there watching that State of the State budget proposal. And it said to me, if I was a brand new teacher, don't teach. And I hear all of these politicians talk about, oh, education is the most important thing. We're never going to move education until we move our retention numbers up as a profession. All of the countries that we're in competition with, the ones we always hear about, they all have very high retention numbers for teachers. When the governor did his tenure piece, I'm like, make it 8 years. What's the difference at this point? Because there's no why. Why are you doing it is my question. You know, what's happening in 3 that you think should happen in 5? Is there a reason? It's like when they always say, oh, we need a longer school day. I'm not judging. My old question is, why? What are you doing? Does it make sense to us? So why do you want a longer tenure period? I know that almost 40% of the teachers, before they even get to the question of whether they get tenure or they're permanent, just walk out of the schools and they'll come back. To me, that's the bigger problem. So here we go with a tenure debate again. They love it. They've basically taken the word away from us. They've made it something it is not. But to me, the question is, what are we doing to try to get the 40% number down? Think how much better education would be in this state if 20% of the teachers walked out of the schools before they had tenure instead of 40. That meant 20% would realize that they got a little bit more support. They realize it's a difficult job, but there's people out there who actually appreciate what I'm doing and trying to help me help these children. But you don't hear that discussion from the governor. How does he plan to implement it? Like a blunt hammer. Effective, 5 straight years. If not, you're out. So what does that mean? Teacher retention drops even more. That's what it means. There was nothing in his proposal, nothing, about how to help develop a teacher when they come into this profession. We know we come in, and I get in trouble from my higher ed folks, but I'm like, we come in and we're really not as prepared as we should have been. You know, that classroom management's a little tricky, isn't it? You know, you might love the children, but just saying, oh, I'm here to help you does not make them behave well. But that's the job. That's not a problem. That's the job. That's our job. That's what we do. You know, figuring out how to manage a classroom, figuring out how to diagnose what's going on inside of that building at that time. And the fact that my lesson plan that I thought I was up to step 3 and it's already gone all the way south and I can't use that anymore and I have to move in a different direction. And at the same time, I got to manage this one over here because he's not paying attention. This one's lost. I got to get some time to get some personal help over here. And this group over here is okay, but they're not pushing as hard as they should. And I got to figure all of that out in 30 seconds, make a couple hundred decisions, and move my class forward. That's what we do. There was nothing in the governor's proposal about that. And that's my problem with what his whole thing was on tenure. And what is he saying to those new teachers that you just spoke to me about, the person who asked you to ask that question? He's basically saying, I don't respect you. I don't understand what you do, but I just want to make your life harder. That's what he's doing. Who wants the next one after Karen asks this question? I'll go all the way in the back. So you don't ask right now. Karen first.
Michael Milliken from PS 38 in Manhattan would like to know, parents are our partners in education. How can we as educators help them, support them, and educate them about Cuomo's education policies and how they will impact their children? How do we help parents to speak about these issues?
That's the basis of everything we're doing right now. That's what we did on the Bloomberg, and we need to go further now. Because we never had all these proposals in 1 year from one person. We are doing our forums, but I absolutely will help support anyone who wants to do a school-based meeting. We have asked all of the CECs are going to have meetings about what the governor has proposed. City council's having meetings about it. But it really needs to be about the parent. And let's be, what does a parent want? They want their child to get a good education. They want to know every day that they put them in our care that they're going to be safe. And that's what we want. We just need to, you know, if a parent doesn't understand what the governor's proposed, explain it to them. If they make my evaluation 50% test scores, then I have to take all of this time out of my year, and I have to drill down on this, and in the end, your child is responsible for my job. That is not what we want. That is not what we want. Work with the parents. We have all sorts of different grassroots things going on. If you have an idea, anyone out there has an idea, there's a community group, there's a block association, we will get teachers and parents out there to talk to you. Because the one thing we do have in our favor right now is we have a lot of people who understand these issues, who are talking more and more and more. But the parents are our friends. And let's never forget, when the previous administration came for us, it was the parents standing with us who stood with us and said, no, enough is enough. It's not about education for you, it's about politics. And we're having the same situation now in Albany. Okay.
My name is Marianne Schmidt, storytelling teacher at PS 333 in Manhattan.
Nice.
First year chapter leader. And one of the biggest concerns at my school is class size, not having the accurate class size, but I'm really glad to hear you say that we want to take back testing, because the most valuable testing tool I see at my school is running records, writing conferences, reading conferences where teachers are meeting face-to-face, one-to-one with each child in their class, which is what happens at my school. But when you have 32 children in a class or 25 five-year-olds, it becomes what I used to work in a factory when I was very young, what we would call speed up.
Yeah.
And how can we include that as part of the learning and teaching conditions, that the cap right now on class size is absolutely contrary to the learning and teaching conditions that we need?
And you have to understand the history of the class size cap is because a group of teachers a long time ago inside of this union decided to forego raises in order to cap the class sizes just of this city. That is not a statewide issue. There are districts with no caps. But, and just imagine what happened in those districts during these horrendous budget cuts when the economy went south. We know that the more time we get to individualize instruction with our students, the better off that child will have all the foundation that they need to move forward. Now, obviously, we cannot do one-on-one tutoring all day, every day. There is an economy here. But talking to parents about, they want me to give these tests and concentrate on them, but they don't do anything for me. And I want to do a running record so I actually know where your child's moving and seeing what I can do, and then customize my instruction for your child so it allows them to move forward and progress. That's the discussion we need to have. And in terms of, it was a tough, the settlement on CFE, which, I was not involved with, but it was clear that this setting class size targets and lowering the class sizes in our city was a big part of that. So talking to the parents about why is the governor not even addressing his responsibility to meet this court settlement? Because that will have a direct impact on lowering class size. Because that's what is in that settlement, the lowering of class size. So I think it's a great idea, but the way you just spoke about the tools you use to diagnose a child, see that passion? That's what we need the public to see, because that's what makes people understand that this is really important to us and help us do the job that we want to do, which is help your child. You're good? Okay. Who's next? I'm going to go here, and then I'm going to go over here.
Gail Warren, Life Program, Manhattan High School.
Life Program?
Yes.
Oh, for those you don't, that's for, you can tell everybody what that is
Yes,
first.
that's the program where we care for the infants and toddlers of teenage parents in the city high schools.
Yeah.
But I was also a public school student, a public school parent, and I believe very strongly in the public schools and the good work that we're doing. And what I see happening with this budget is that being taken away from us, from the public schools across the country. And that's what this fight is about. And that's where my question is, how can we improve on that fight?
Teaching and learning conditions, teaching and learning conditions. Just think about what you do in your program. So you have students who have children, and you afford them the ability to have good care for their child so they can continue their education. Correct. Right. And you don't hear anyone talking about that. And now, does that help the teaching and learning condition for the parent? Yes. That's what we mean when we're talking about learning conditions are really about students. And how do we make sure? I don't hear the governor talking about learning conditions. What is the condition of which we teach under? I mean, I've been fortunate enough to visit your programs, and it's nice you wear little booties on your shoes because we have to keep everything clean a little bit. And what they do is amazing. It's an amazing service. But that allows us to have a parent who is still a child so that they can finish their education. That's a learning condition for a student. And that's really where we need to get this. The folks who do not like us, who do not like public education, you've heard me say this, there's people out there trying to privatize it, there's a marketplace, you know all of this stuff. They don't want to talk about teaching and learning conditions. Because that means responsibility for other things. Does that mean that we need to finance education in a much better way? Yes. Does it mean that we have to ensure that a school building has the correct technology and infrastructure to use technology? Yes. Does it mean that before we change standards, that we have to design a curriculum and actually train teachers on what that curriculum is before we would ever use it or give an assessment based upon it? Yes. So they don't want to talk about teaching and learning conditions. And I love when they say class size doesn't matter. Class size doesn't matter. Well, I had 30 kids in my class, and I was fortunate once I had 19 kids in a class. And I did a good job for my 30 kids, but I did a better job for my 19. It just is what it is. because I got to spend more time with them. So don't tell me it doesn't matter. And they don't like that because it means that if we're going to lower class size, we need more teachers, we need more funding. So they know what that, they're like, uh-oh, he's going to say tax the rich people. Whatever. We need to do a better job. We need more accountability. And the other piece for me is, and this is a big issue for me, I want the money in the classroom. The money needs to be in the classroom. It needs to be in any service that is directed at children inside of the classroom. If we train a teacher, that's about money being in the classroom. It all has to get to the classroom. Okay? So there needs to be some accountability and responsibility on that, which we're always open to have a conversation on. Okay. Go ahead.
Hello, Maura O'Sullivan, David A. Booty in Brooklyn. On the social networks, we've been asking the governor to come into our classrooms.
It's not working out, is it?
My question is, do we know when the last time he was in a classroom? Was he ever in a classroom? Has he actually taken anyone up on our offer? Do we know if he's spoken to a teacher? Do we have any idea of where we're headed with any of this?
Look, the issue for, we knew the governor was going to do things in his state budget. We didn't know exactly what he was going to do, but it was, and when you heard his public comments leading up to the budget, it was all about, he knew it was best because he talks to people. Well, I think if you're going to make decisions, you shouldn't be talking to billionaire friends. You should be talking to teachers, and you should talk to parents, talk to them about what they think. I know the news media has asked numerous times now since we started our campaign, have you been in a classroom? Has he been in a school? They've cited him in a school. You know, he was at New York City. I know because I was there when President Obama came to the P-TECH school. But that's not the point. The point of that thing was have a real conversation with real teachers. That's what we're doing. Yes. Does it work for us? Sure. Is it a good strategy? Yeah. Is it ridiculous that he still won't talk to teachers? Yeah, I think it is. But now it becomes political versus if you really want to do something that's meaningful, you need to talk to them, the teachers. You know, not the people who funded your campaign, who have never really done anything to help educate. You need to talk to the teachers. Find out what they actually do before you decide that you know what's best. And that's what that campaign is. And I'm still a teacher at heart, so I'm optimistic. I'm hoping one day that he will be in a classroom with a group of teachers talking. It doesn't look so good right now, but that is my hope. You know, I was an at-risk teacher, so I always have that hope. I am hoping that will happen, okay? Who's got the mic over here? Well, she can pass it, so that's close enough.
Hi, Michael. Antoinette Fuccio, Brooklyn Studio in Brooklyn. I have a question for you on the receivership. Is it possible to get a little bit more information? What's going to happen to the teachers in the building? You said that there would be no more contract for them. So could their day get longer? Could their classroom time be longer? Could they teach more classes in a row?
Yeah.
Anything like that? What's going on with that?
Under the proposal he put in the State of the State, it's the school is a failure, and basically the approach is everybody who's worked at the school is a failure, which we don't agree with. And then it's their, whatever agreements, working contracts or anything else in place are just null and void. And it is up to the receiver, whoever that entity is, which we still don't understand, the receiver then tells them what they want to do. So it's not even a well thought out plan. And where the few places they've done it, it hasn't worked out so well. All sorts of scandals. You can imagine what happens. There's all sorts of financial scandals around the places that have tried it. But to me, you know, when some people bring up the receiver subject to me, it's about, well, I love to talk about these schools. Because this is really, you know, if we're going to move education, that's what we got to move. So what is the design that works? He did say he wants community learning schools, which is good. I appreciate that he supports them. I don't know if he knows what they are, but I appreciate that he supports them. But we do that work here. You know, we run 26 schools. Karen's a point on that. But, you know, solving that piece an extremely, a school with all sorts of challenges, high poverty, high need students, all sorts of different cohorts, IEPs, English language learners. Solving that is the toughest question in education. So when he says receivership, I'm like, fine, but nobody's come up with a plan yet. So to me, it's about having a conversation about the plan. What do? We've recognized this school is struggling. Boom, fine. Who's doing the needs analysis? What hasn't happened? What is the budget of the school? Do they have the right programs? What is all of this stuff? Where are the social services that we know should be there? Those are the issues. So it's draconian, what he is proposing. It works well politically. Let's just say what it is. Oh, I'm going to take care of the struggling schools. Do we remember that? Has there been another elected official in our recent memory who used to do that all the time? Even though he was responsible for over a decade for the schools, he kept closing his own schools that he was responsible for. That irony was never lost on us. But I welcome having a real constructive conversation with anyone who really wants to help solve this issue. But right now, what I see proposed is nothing close to that. Nothing. Okay? There and then up here. I thought you wanted to question. Okay, pass it up.
Hi, I'm Mindy Rozier, District 75, P811, Mickey Mantle School. I have just one quick question and one suggestion. As a District 75 teacher, I'm very concerned what's going to happen to the children in our district if this plan goes through, because teachers are not going to want to teach in District 75, and those that are already in District 75, they can be in danger of losing their job because of the students they teach. And then the biggest losers would be the students, because who's going to want to teach them? Who's going to be with them?
Right.
And switching to the suggestion, I spoke to a good friend yesterday who's concerned about that there's a core, of members that are very active. But there are also in schools, there are a bunch of teachers or other staff that's not active. And no matter what we do or try and give them all the information. And he thought it would be a good idea to get district reps into the schools to help light a fire under all staff to understand the gravity of the situation.
Okay. So this is, and look, there are people who are active in terms of education, the profession, and the union. There's other folks who have very complicated lives, raising their families, and struggle with time management just on the big issue, which is your teaching and your professional life, which is quite immense. I mean, there's a reason, they love to say, oh, we work 6 hours and 40 minutes. Who works 6 hours and 40 minutes? There's no such thing. There's no such thing. And now it's gotten even more complicated with all the data analysis and everything else, besides the fact that we still have to grade papers. But to your first point, this is the danger. The neediest populations, why would people want to teach there? That is the danger of all of this. So we know that's the big question on how to move education forward, is how do we solve that? And at the same time, we see all these policies that are telling professionals don't go near those kids. That's, the part that gets me so angry. Look, when it comes to student achievement, obviously there should be a different set of metrics depending on the student's ability. I mean, I started in District 75. There has to be a different set of metrics. We get a child at point A, we want to know where they're at. We want to move them to a better place and what is appropriate. That sounds simple, but it's highly complex. And if you work in District 75 or with other really challenging populations, that's really complex. It's not an excuse. See, that's the thing. They like to say, oh, we use it. No, it's not an excuse. We are here telling you, we come to the table, we want every child to move forward. We want to be given the support. We want to be put in the best possible position to help our children move forward. But we are here dedicated because we want these children to move forward. That's what we bring to the table. That's what we bring. And don't let them they'll bring up these wedge issues here or try to twist this. No. What I am telling you all, and this is what we should all be saying, I am here doing a good job to the best of my ability under these situations. I can do a better job if I had better teaching and learning conditions. If the government actually came up with ideas that would allow me that would allow me to go faster and further than ever before with my students by lowering my class size, by making sure that there was a plan and training ahead of time so that I have the services if a child is having difficulties there to help that child. That's what I want. And if you want to talk to me about those things, I'm here to talk to you. But if you want to talk to me about this silliness, then we're going to fight. Because I'm dedicating my life to children. That's what I'm here telling you that I'm doing. I'm dedicating my life to children. So, to the governor, we know, the end of the budget, we'll see where we're at. We want to move education forward. If you want to work with us, we're here. If you just want to leave it alone, fine. But if you want to fight, we're going to fight. Because we are here for the children of this city and state, and each and every one of us had dedicated our lives to it. So thank you all very much for being here, and thank you everybody for online. And let's make sure we're here and we win in the end, because we win, the kids win. Thank you all very much.